to another iAnimate podcast. I'm your host, Larry Vasquez, and you are listening to episode 43. In this episode, we'll be interviewing Sebastian Kalemba, a longtime friend of iAnimate. He was one of my fellow students when we first opened up iAnimate back in, 2010, I guess it was. And so one of our feature alumni and is now actually an instructor in our games workshops. So very cool to have him in this podcast. He's currently a lead animator at CD Projekt RED there in Poland. One of their big hits here recently was Witcher 3, and he is currently leading animation on Cyberpunk 2077, which will be their next installment. I'm really looking forward to talking with him about his journey. I think he's in a cool position in the industry, not brand new, not veteran, and so I think it'll be kind of a cool perspective to see where he's at in his journey in this industry here. So, let's bring him on. How you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Very good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. Very good to see you.
It's been a long time since we've been on the cam, huh?
It's crazy. When times fly and the life changes so much.
I know it.
You know, I'm in one of the conference rooms here at CDP because it's actually a very calm place. Like here I can focus because at home, my baby is, he's like a Tasmanian devil,
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, I understand you're in crunch, and so I really appreciate you just even stopping and taking some time here, man.
Yeah, no worries. I'm very enjoying this stuff.
I know you can't talk probably much about Cyberpunk 2077. That's the title?
Yeah.
Okay.
2077. Yeah, not at all. It's like so top secret.
Right. So I figured you couldn't talk about that. Witcher 3 we can talk about, right?
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about Witcher 3. Maybe I can. No, about Cyberpunk I can just tell you that it's gonna be awesome. That's it.
Okay.
That's nothing more.
And even Witcher 3, it's one of the things I haven't played the game. I don't play much anymore. We have a Wii U. I play with my boys, and that's
I've heard that you have like 5 kids.
No, I have 7. The 7th one is
on
the
How?
The 7th one's on the way.
How you do it? Man, how? I can't survive with one sometimes.
It was kind of funny. I was just talking with my wife today in a good way. It's sometimes it's like a mini insane asylum. I'm working out of the house today, and one of my kids is just singing this random song and it makes no sense. And one of my daughters is kind of dancing across the room, and another kid will come up and just kind of do some funny face. It's like, it's just hilarious. That's why I said in a good way, it's like a mini asylum,
Yeah.
Imagine. How old's your little one?
It's 2 years. Yeah. So naughty. Well, it was awesome.
Yeah. That's a fun, but a very adventurous year.
Yeah, man. He doesn't sleep at all, man. He wakes up 5 a.m. and he's like, Daddy, like dada. Brum 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 brum. And I have to, 5 till 7 a.m. My wife is sleeping. I'm preparing coffee, and I have to play with toy cars. It's crazy.
There you go. So, always inspiration for some animation, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. It's one of those things I was kind of looking at. You're kind of in a cool and unique position for us as doing this podcast. You're one of our first alumni, actually one of our first classes. You kind of came back to take the classes and finish up, but you're one of our very first classes. I actually had the class with you with Mr. Mike Walling, which was an absolute blast, man. That was one of the most fun classes I've ever had.
Totally.
And then later on with Ken Fountain, I think that was, right? We had another class with him, or Ted. I forget which one.
I think Ken Fountain, and then Ted, and
Yeah, so we've had a lot of classes together, and so you were one of our very first when we first opened up our doors, and then it's just unique, the fact that you're one of our first alumni to come back now and be an instructor here. You've been teaching in our games intro class, which I think is a cool class, particularly for you, having had more of maybe a feature type background and then make that transition to games. And so you kind of know, not having started out in games per se, but how to make that transition if anybody's kind of interested in doing that. So I think that's a great class for you in that introduction. So first off, I always like to kind of get that background, establish that foundation here. Can you give us, you're from Poland here. How'd you get into animation, iAnimate, and where you're at now?
Yeah, good question. Actually, here in Poland, we don't have such a environment to learn animation, to be honest. So the only way, you have two ways. You buy books on Amazon and you learn from it, or you or you or you take the online class.
Uh-huh.
And this is exactly how I started. So I was self-taught. Like I bought those kind of animation Bibles like Animation Survival Kit, The Illusion of Life, the Timing for Animators. I was reading this like in a loop. Then I did some like personal things. Got my first job. I left to UK, and then actually I remember that Jason Ryan started his first like ramp ups.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you remember that. So I bought it. I bought it straight. I learned a lot of things from it.
Uh-huh.
And then he decided to start the school. And so I started. That's it. And I was so happy. That time I was in games
Okay.
and I wanted to actually push my like acting skills because when I was starting any acting shot, it was there was no beat, no rhythm, nothing. I was so overacted. So I was like, okay, all right, I have to start it again. I have to probably learn what acting is. And this actually pushed me to get a class. And actually, I was, I think Jason Ryan is one of the best in the industry for sure.
Uh-huh.
So I was so happy to start. Yeah.
Now, what made you want to get into animation? Was there anything that sparked it, or just Jason, for example? We're talking about him. He got in. He was in university, and someone had seen some of his drawing skills and thought, "Hey, you should get into animation." Was there anything like that that pushed you in there, or you just always like drawing, or how did that work for you?
I used to love drawing when I was a kid. Then I stopped. Like I was first, thinking I have two paths. One, I'm going to go to army, or I have to do something with art. And actually, finally, I've chose the second path. And I have tried everything, like a little bit of modeling and a little bit of painting, digital drawing,
Uh-huh.
and finally animation. And animation was something really which I fell in love straight in animation was this motion like never ending learning process. Like every single animation is different. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like, of course you have workflow, but still, you have to do planning again and again. You have to think about shot, about personality and motivation. It's like it was something that like very refreshing every single day, something new, and that's why I just fall in love in animation. And I decided to go for it.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned you went to the UK. Is that when you spent some time in cinematics at Real Time UK?
Yeah, I was real time UK, but mostly that time I was animating games um, for Microsoft. It was Kinectimals
Uh-huh.
and Disney Adventures.
Yes. Okay, I remember you working on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that was your first gigs were actually more in games then, huh?
No, actually, my first gig was in Poland. I was working on a very actually, it was a game, like a browser game, quite advanced because it was 3D, like fairy tale fantasy world. But finally, they didn't release it.
Hmm.
But that was my like a first job in games, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because like before, I was doing some freelance in advertising.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So then, yeah, I just applied for one company called Gusto Games, and I was there just 3 months working on some uh, outsourcing for DJ Hero for freestyle games, as far as I remember. And then I jumped straight into Real-Time UK. I did a test for Kinectimals, and I got the job there, and I was really enjoying that. It was very good times. Learned a lot from Chris Fena. He was animation director at that time in this company.
That was kind of more in your infancy, so to speak, of your career. What were some of the key things that you learned during that time?
Oh, I've learned a lot. Like first 3 months, actually, it was such a pressure because I didn't have enough experience in 3ds Max, and I remember that I had to just there was no time for preparation, no nothing. Yes, like you have a shot here and you have to animate as like 2 Polish seconds per day. I was like, okay, but why? But why you use a biped on a quadruped character? It's like, I will do it, and that's it. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I remember my first 3 months. I was almost crying like a baby, but I didn't sleep much that time. I was so stressed, and that was really, really, really tough. Like because you're learning workflow from tutorials, and you read about this. I had to start develop something new. I was asking friends like how to animate in this soft to get easier and faster results. So finally, I remember that we've stuck with like a straight ahead. That was the key point. You go straight ahead and you check every 2 frames. You check if it's good or not. If there is a flow and there is organic motion, you have to check it all the time. So actually, in my opinion, that was a very good lesson because right now it helps me sometimes when I have to in Maya even animate straight ahead and don't have problems with it. Biped Biped was like a really tough school. You know what I mean? It's like,
Gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
And then from there, you went to Real Time UK working in cinematics.
No, then I went back to Poland to Platige Image, and yeah, and then I jumped straight into like into cinematics department. Yeah,
How do you pronounce it?
Platige
Platige?
Image,
Uh,
Platige Image.
okay, like soft
Yeah,
image, but platige image.
yeah, Platige
Okay.
Image. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now you're doing cinematics there as well?
Yeah, I did the cinematics there, mostly, and like 2 short movies for Qatar, like half an hour
Wow.
long.
Okay. So quite a bit
Yeah,
of footage there, huh?
yeah, it's a lot. So yeah, we've been crunching too. It's all about the industry, guys. Uh, Forget about 8 hours.
I
8 hours.
for sure.
It's
There's seasons, but you got to be ready for those, huh?
totally. Totally.
um,
Prepare yourself. Winter is coming.
yeah. Now, you're currently lead animator at CD Projekt.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, how did you get that gig? It's a prestigious company in regards to the work that you guys have produced there. You guys
yeah.
got a very strong, from what I've realized from this Witcher 3, you have a very strong fan base that you kind of keep in very good contact with. So, what was the how did you get over to CD Projekt there?
CD Projekt is in the same city as Platyzima, so Warsaw, capital in Poland. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so I have friends here too, and actually Platige was producing cinematics for CD Projekt,
Ah, okay.
few of them, and I did like few important scenes in those cinematics, like this crazy fighting scene, and finally I've been talking with. I was actually thinking about switching again, going back to games because, I really enjoyed that. I remember I really enjoyed games that time, back in the UK, and I thought I really love RPG games. This is like my passion. I was playing paper RPGs since I remember. Yeah, I love stories and stuff like that. So I used to play like 8 years, maybe 10 years, like a paper Cyberpunk 2020. Like yeah, so like totally, I'm so RPG guy. And finally, I've started talking with HR here, and yeah, this is how I started. One interview, second interview, and then because at Platige Image, I was in the end of that. I got a lead position in cinematics team. So and that's how I started here. So
Now, what was your position when you first started there at CD Projekt?
lead,
Oh, so you got
but
on it directly as a lead, huh?
yeah.
Okay. So what did you say some of your favorite games were growing up?
Man, I must say, like, I was crying like a baby when Aerie died in Final Fantasy VII. I remember that. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah,
Now they've
then
recently made is
yeah.
the remake out or
No, no, not yet,
not
but
yet, huh?
they are making it. Can't wait
Okay.
for it.
You're gonna pick that one up,
Yeah.
huh?
Oh, for sure. Probably I'll take 2 weeks off from work.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I will close myself somewhere in the farm and just play. Yeah, that's one for sure. And Planescape Torment, that's another title I love. And the series like Baldur's Gate series, like RPG. Yeah,
Okay,
love it.
very cool. Now,
Yeah.
was Witcher 3 the first project you got on there at CD Projekt?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I came like I came here like I think 8 months before releasing the game. So it was a pressure time.
Okay.
But yeah,
Now, like I mentioned earlier, just having looked through some of the articles and stuff, this was kind of a big title for you guys with the following that you guys had for your user base there. How was that for you jumping on as a lead animator there, taking on such a big role?
I was very nervous that time, like, it was a lot of stress. But, the great thing about CD Projekt is that every single person here is like full fulfilled with passion. Like, you have guys here and girls like they're so passionate about the stuff they do. And actually that was I think this is the main driver. So I was nervous, but I saw that people actually love what they do. So I think we've been just pushing each other so much to get this 300 Gotis awards or yeah, why not?
And that's the neat part about working in a collaborative group there. It fosters that creativity and it's hard to be an island unto oneself, huh?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like a huge family here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your role working on such a title?
Oh, first for sure it was like catching up. That's first thing. Then uh, like working on pipeline to to really make sure that we'll do it. Like you know what I mean? It's like we had to redo some stuff to make it better, and that was actually a difficult thing because we had to pick the parts we want to polish before releasing the game. And
Okay.
I think those kind of choices that this was quite important in terms of like polishing the product before release in the like last, let's say, half a year.
Okay. Now, where do you guys get your feedback from? Is it just the beta testers there, or is it internal? I mean, how does that work for you guys? What makes you decide that, hey, this is what we need to polish and work on and not?
Actually, like I think we have like I think 40 QA people here. So and sometimes we work for outsource. Of course, we're getting feedback from them a lot. But I think that time it was mostly like our direction decision.
Okay.
So it was like we've been talking a lot with other leads and directors and deciding.
So your company has a pretty good pulse on what the gamers want, then, you feel like.
I think we respect gamers so much, and that's the rule here. Uh, we do games for them, so that's yeah
Okay, now,
important.
let me ask you. That's a great point because oftentimes you kind of hear if you do a movie or a game or whatever it is for yourself, then you figure other people will like it. But that's a great point though because you have to keep in mind that this is a product that's going out to the masses. So you're bringing
Totally.
up kind of the an opposite in that regards that we're doing this for the gamers. Um, how does that keep you motivated? Um,
It's like we're doing. I know what you mean. It's like we're doing it for gamers, but still at the same time we are gamers.
gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, we do. We like on a daily basis we ask questions. What's the best for us? And let's say we are gamers and we are waiting for the product. So there's like no compromise here.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, like quality is most important. So and you can ask people like sometimes they don't have to crunch, but they crunch because they want to polish the product so much. You know what I mean? It's crazy, crazy, crazy.
That's good. Yeah, there's always that balance, but that's the neat part about a craft like this when you enjoy it.
Yeah,
As you mentioned, you're going through crunch here. It makes it at least bearable because it's doing something you enjoy and love, huh?
totally. Yeah, man. It's just I am actually. Right now it's here like 20 to 9 and we're talking and I'm still at work and just finished just before this podcast. And I was sending emails and talking to people. So yeah, man, I love this place.
Now, okay, this brings me to another question here because as a lead, your role is very much different than obviously just an animator because you're either having to put out some footage or as you mentioned there, you're having to oversee things, you're having to kick out emails. Um, for you being in this position, what is it that you enjoy about it and what is it that you kind of struggle with a little bit?
Oh, that's a good one. I definitely enjoy um, trying. I really try to look on animation here because animation here is very broad. We have gameplay, dialogues, cutscenes, is an RPG. So in every single part of the game, you have to feel that this character, like a main character, or even sidekicks that are really well motivated, that you really believe what they do. So if the game is so huge like this one, which is like 200 hours to finish,
Are
yeah,
you serious?
yes, yes,
Gosh.
and you have like a very deep story like this, you have to all the time think globally, like, and this is what I love here. It's like because I told you like I love stories,
Hmm.
and I really enjoy like I'm really enjoying to make character consistent
Mm.
through the story. Like when they go to the story, this is what I love most. Like keeping an eye on this and giving a feedback, like connecting connecting those like animation parts, those departments, talking to people, like trying to polish animation so much. This is what I enjoy most. But I'm struggling sometimes that there is not enough time to do everything. I'm trying to multitasking so much, using Wunderlist, Evernote, and other programs to just, I'm typing, have my tablet. All the time, trying to type what I have to do in 5 minutes into 1 hour, and I still don't have enough time to do it. But yeah,
Okay, well, I got another question for you then. Any advice you could give to somebody in your position, maybe not even just as a lead, but just somebody who's having to juggle, multitask? It
yeah.
could be someone who's going to school, has a family, and a job or something along that lines. What advice would you give to somebody who's having to manage all these plates that are in the air?
I think like discipline is a freedom.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to really try to write down what you have to do tomorrow, and try to not skip any step
Mm.
any part of the day. Like if you have to, of course, postpone it, but for tomorrow, let's say. But yeah, I think discipline is the most important thing. Yeah.
Now, has discipline been something that you've kind of had to take on, or is that something that was kind of a character trait for you as you were growing up, or how did that work? I know you kind of we've talked about it before with
Yeah.
regards to martial arts and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what I wanted to answer you. It's like I remember like our like a trainer sensei, let's say, yeah.
Uh-huh.
uh, he was like a second father. There was like no excuses. If
Right.
you want, if you didn't like, you have to. If you promise him that you'll be in training tomorrow, you have to be.
Hmm.
If not, you have to answer him well,
Very good.
because he's going to almost slap you in the face. Like, yeah, so it was a very, very tough guy, but yeah, but in the same time you respect him so much,
Hmm.
and that's definitely martial arts. That's for sure the key of my, like, I say,
Your discipline
like,
trait there.
discipline. Yeah, totally.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great. Okay, so you mentioned that was some of the stuff that you enjoy working on, and then you said there was gameplay, cutscene, and what else?
and dialogues. So this is something like cutscenes on gameplay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, you're lead animator in regards to all those areas or in a particular area?
yeah, all those areas. Yeah,
Okay. So you're making sure everything is kind of cohesive and
yeah,
following. Uh,
totally.
okay.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool.
So this is actually how developing those acting skills helping me a lot right now.
Right, right.
So right now I'm trying to mix that's like gameplay with acting, and this is like helps a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, because for those that don't know, you were an alumni in our feature,
Yeah,
our workshops,
exactly. Yeah,
and here you are in
yeah,
games, but you're working in all those areas.
yeah, totally.
Now that's kind of, that's something that we've kind of seen probably a little bit more though as games has developed though. There is kind of this, and even with VR, there's been kind of
Yeah,
more of this hybrid of feature and games kind of coming
yeah,
together. Obviously, as you mentioned, even in regards to Final Fantasy VII,
yeah,
there was that emotional cinematic feature
yeah.
level to a game. So story has been obviously very, my favorite one was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Oh, it's awesome one too. Yeah, love
So,
it.
um, story has always obviously been a key part of games, but obviously now with the push in regards to technology, it's been definitely more of that kind of hybrid, so to speak. And so I can see where
Yeah,
your skill set of feature and games are playing a big role together there. So
yeah, totally, man. Like it helps a lot, and I see that game is just getting every single year. It's getting closer and closer to films and closer. I see right now. You have those very nice, beautiful, like facial expressions in games. So and they use the same technology when like movies used like 6 years, 7 years ago. So it's like I see that games are catching up
hmm
quickly, and I see that that story in games is getting even more important from year to year. And yes, definitely, it's like everything for building better immersion. Like, yeah,
Okay, well, I got a question for you here then, because you mentioned there was how many hours here to finish this game? It's Cyberpunk 2077 is the name of
yeah,
the title here, and you've said it's going to be amazing, huh?
yeah. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. That's what
That's all he can say, ladies and gentlemen.
that's only one thing I can tell. Totally, but but I promise you guys that we'll still humble and want to make even better game.
That's great. Now,
Yeah.
what is the challenge that you've seen, or maybe I don't know, maybe it's still kind of early here. Yeah, as we're talking about games becoming more and more immersive and more film-like in some ways here, uh, this game's going to be, you mentioned, over 200 hours.
Yeah.
How does that work within the budget? Because it's not like games are suddenly, a couple $100s now to purchase. They're still within that price point. Um,
Yeah.
have you found any challenges in regards to animation in particular that you guys have, had to get X amount still footage in a short amount of time, or how does that work for you in your department?
Oh, that's a good one again. Uh, it's like, of course, me and my producer, we go talking with executives too, and like we're trying to count like how many animations we can produce in let's say next 6 months based on this design, and then, but finally, like as I said before, it's like let's say we decide to make 100 animation uh, next month, but finally we do 200 because because it's always like it's not enough, but this could be
Yep,
better.
yep.
What about if we add this and this? And it's like, yeah, it's a bit of this is like a chaotic factor, you
Uh-huh.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it helps a lot because it builds creativity, and it's a part of the passion. So production, yeah, it's important. It's exactly, the producer is very important. He's telling you, hey, tomorrow is deadline. But you can always ask him, hey man, can you give me another day? Yeah. So this is how we work here. There's quality over quantity, and
Yeah.
and yeah,
I think there was a quote from shoot, what was the first Nintendo president? It was it Shigeru
yeah,
Miyamoto. He said,
yeah,
a game that comes out late, as long as that quality's there, and again, I'm paraphrasing this, he goes, people forget that it was late, is the idea.
totally,
Uh,
totally. That's we've postponed releasing date just to polish it and polish it and polish it even more.
mhm.
Yeah,
But get a bad game in on time, and it's still a bad game. So,
yeah. As I always say, like pain is temporary, glory is forever. Following the Brad Bird, one of my idols.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you're are you getting to animate much in your position here?
Yeah, definitely, man. It's like, first of all, I was because I had some teaching, like mentoring experience a few years ago, and in the previous company, Platige, as I said, we had like this kind of episode of creating like Platige Image Academy. It was 6 months,
Hmm.
and I've really enjoyed that. And right now, man, this is crazy. It's like teaching people, it's so good. You have to go back to the fundamentals again,
Mm.
redo it, like think about it more, and like, you have to at least have some empathy for the students, so you have to become one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And man, it helps me a lot in terms of like growing as an artist.
Mm.
I love it. I love it.
Now you finished. This was your first class, right? This
Yeah,
this
yeah.
term here. Was it everything you expected, or?
Oh man, totally. Like first month, I was so nervous. I'm not, my English is not so perfect, like no native. So, it's always this kind of barrier. But after a month, I think it was good. The flow was there.
Hmm.
I think, in the last week, I was so sad of, saying goodbye to my students. I was like, man, even 2 days ago, Alan, one of my students, sent me again, like files, and I'm going to send him a feedback because this is,
This is your
I
student now. Yeah,
this is
yeah.
my student. It's like my baby, man. I have to look after him.
That's awesome.
Uh,
I
yeah,
love that.
fingers crossed that he's going to become one of the best,
There
in
you
the
go.
future. So this is awesome. I can't wait to start another workshop.
Very cool. Any
Yeah,
tips that I think you're at a cool position in your profession. You aren't 20 years in the industry. You aren't brand spanking new. As you mentioned, you kind of have to now go back and think as a student, so you have empathy as a
yeah,
student.
yeah,
Any tips that you have where you're in your current position in the industry here that you've been doing it for about what, 10 years now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any tips that you could give to some of our listeners here?
First thing I'm always saying to like new animators
Mhm.
here, either juniors or even seniors, like don't be scared, really. If and that feedback doesn't not hurts you,
Right,
you
right.
know what I mean. It's like ability of getting feedback is exactly is equal. It's so important to the skill itself.
Yep.
Sometimes I see like we have juniors, but they are so good of getting feedback,
Mm.
and like that man, like next or 2 days after, you see that the quality is there, and this is exactly what you've been talking about.
Hmm. Yeah.
So for sure, forget about ego. Understand that you work in a big company with people, with friends. Treat them as a friends. Ask questions, give feedback, and be humble.
Mm.
And that's it. That's what I would do.
That's key, man. Be willing to receive feedback. That's the only
Totally.
way to grow from there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Any advice that you've got throughout the years that has stuck with you that you went, I'll never forget that?
Yeah. And the feedback that I got, like I'm looking for like the most important thing.
And it doesn't even have to be from an animator. It could have been, like you mentioned, from your sensei there. That you now
Yeah.
that you take as just a life thing that applies to your career.
Yeah. It's like it's gonna be a cliche. It's like really never give up. It's like
Okay.
there's always like there's always some struggles. There's always some bad days. You're gonna cry for sure, but next day you have to just uh, tight your fists and animate or
There
do
you go.
whatever you love.
I
Yeah,
think perseverance is a great, great advice to give somebody. That's not always easy. And I love
yeah,
hearing it from someone like you where you're in a position now that you can look back and go, hey, look, had I given up, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I think it's never-ending learning process.
mhm.
So I'm here, I'm doing what I do, but still, it's like there's no ego at all. I'm trying to like develop skills every day. Hopefully, I'll do the same thing in 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you drawing your inspiration from right now, being a lead animator?
Oh, from everywhere. Like every animator has it. Like you watch a movie with your, let's say, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, and it's like you freeze frame it and like uh, remember the second.
Yeah.
Remember this, it's also acting piece. Probably I animated once, so I love acting itself. I'm following many blogs, like really listening to podcasts. I love like a classical theater, for example. I love
Mm.
studying acting. It is awesome thing. I just love it.
Any favorite films?
Oh, too many. Uh, yeah, I must say that like my favorite director is Mr. Inarritu. So
Who's that?
like Revenant last time, or Birdman, or Revenant.
Yes, yes. I haven't seen
The
it, but I know what you're
yeah,
talking about. Yes.
I really like. I like this guy. Like he's amazing. So I definitely like every single movie he created.
Mm.
And there's like many. I like classic movies like from Polanski, let's say Chinatown. I really like those kind of old classic movies.
Um, I was watching a interview that you did with Sebastian Dassault,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
we'll have to plug that one here
Very
too.
very spontaneous. Like
Hey, it turned out great. So that those are the
nobody
fun
know, and I was so nervous that time.
those are the
But
fun ones.
it was fun. It
You
was fun.
mentioned one of the things that you learned was the idea of keep it simple.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Why was that something that, as advice, that came to your mind?
I think, people tend to overact and overdo and stuff they do. It's like it's normal. They want something big,
Hmm.
but big doesn't mean better. It's like you have to rethink sometimes. So uh, when I think about like about new animation, or at least like a new character, about design or anything here at CD Projekt, I my first idea is always it's not the best mostly. So I'm trying to ask questions like, is it good? Is it overacted, or
Hmm.
is it too much? Like in my opinion, when you have an idea, you should always ask a question if this idea fits the character, and that will probably answer you that it would it probably was too much.
Hmm.
And that's why keep it simple, in my opinion. It's like you have to like, step back, or two steps back, rethink again, think about like keeping it more simple. And I think, because the most important thing is like to create something which is clear, and and audience will just understand it quickly.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was one of the things I think you mentioned in that was a recruiter or a family member. They're going to watch this once, and it has to be, like you said, clear. It has to be something that is very easily readable, and
Yeah.
it's just delivering that. So I thought that was just a great piece of advice, and I wanted to have it in this podcast here. So
Awesome.
um,
Thanks.
plagiarizing Sebastian Dassault's his interview question. He won't mind. He's one of our alumni too. So
Yeah, he's awesome. Great guy.
who I'm looking to get on a podcast too. Um,
Awesome.
quick question here. I mentioned VR a little bit earlier. I know that was kind of heavily talked about here at GDC.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts about that as you're in the gaming industry?
You know, I'm a bit scared of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it's crazy. I'm very actually curious how it's going to develop, and can't wait for Henry, this
Yeah.
short,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
hedgehog. Actually, my friend is supervisor animator there in that Baobab Studios,
Oh,
and yeah, Maciej Gliwa, ex DreamWorks guy, and I really can't wait for it.
yeah.
Hopefully, it's gonna be awesome. Like really, because this is something that's going to push this industry so much for sure in the future,
Right. Right.
and it will definitely set some constraints in terms of telling stories,
Hmm.
and I wonder how.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, just always kind of curious to get people's takes.
yeah.
Your team size there at CD Projekt, is it a large studio, medium?
It's I don't know. I think it's quite large. It's a bit more than 300 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, so it's quite large. We have around 16 animators.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what is, you've worked at a couple different studios. What is it at CD Projekt's been most unique for you there?
I think that's what we always says, like that we are rebels. So that's what we that's how we call ourselves. And yeah, mm,
Does that mean you feel like you guys are willing to take a little bit more chances?
uh,
Okay, let me ask you this. When you
yeah.
say that we're rebels, how does that
Uh-huh.
play out in your guys' business model?
Okay. I think that's what I said at the very beginning. Like, we want to do the best game with any cost. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, as I said, like no compromises and stuff. I know we have production and we have deadlines, and but still, uh, making the best game possible is the main thing.
Mm.
So it's a great place because you have many passionate people here, and yeah,
There seems to be because you mentioned the number of people. It's a pretty good sized studio there.
yeah,
But one of the things it seems, and I mean this in a very good way, it seems like it has a small studio feel, though, in regards to, as you mentioned, very close. Um, I don't mean this to sound like it's a bad thing too, because I mean, it's just part of business, though. You have
yeah,
to be able
yeah,
to make money and keep
yeah,
the doors open.
of
Hence,
course,
that's why you afford artists. But they're like you
yeah,
mentioned that there. Hey, we're willing to make the best game possible at all costs, And so
yeah,
it seems to have still that somewhat smaller studio feel in regards to philosophy. I guess is that
totally,
accurate?
yeah, yeah. I think yeah, I can agree. I can agree on that. That this is most important. Even one of the key factor if you want to start even working here is that we're checking how much passionate you are about the craft and game and stuff. This is important because if someone has like a passion, you don't have to control him. You know that he
Right.
wants to get the best thing. You know what
That's
I
a
mean?
good point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I love that. Now, how many other studios there is Poland a very? You mentioned earlier that it's not a ton of stuff for animation. That's why you had you went to iAnimate here. Is it grown since the time when you first started?
I think this is quite crazy because we don't have animation schools here.
Uh-huh.
Maybe somewhere you can learn really very basic stuff. But the cool thing is that we have studios
That's
here.
great.
Like, CD Projekt is one of them. It's like Techland or 11-bit Studios or like Vivid Games. So there are really some companies here, like big ones. Like,
Hmm.
the Techland is a company which just released the Dying Light, which was a
Mm.
success, like the zombie game.
Yeah,
So yeah, so the industry here is quite big.
that's great. That's
Yeah.
always nice to hear. Um, how has your workflow changed throughout the years?
I think that's a good one because I remember that I was when I was a student like back then. Uh, you have this kind of you probably had the same thing. It's like you're learning animation and it's like, oh, you've heard that there's some special golden workflow. I have to find this, and
Right.
when I find this, I'll do the amazing animation now. And you are just reading blogs, trying to learn it, and looking for the best possible workflow. And finally, there is no best possible workflow. It's like there is a workflow dependent on the kind of shot you get.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's like uh, the first question I do when I right now I don't animate so much because of overload of works,
Right. Right.
But when I do, I always ask the question like, what's the kind of shot? If it's body mechanic, full open shot when the character is full framed, I pick this one. When it's subtle acting, I try to take this kind of workflow.
Mm.
So I have like few, like 5, 6 workflows. I'm just picking one, dependent on kind of shot I have to do. And I'm focusing, like first pass, really focusing on golden poses. Like it has to be like a punch to face, like it has to be a solid, appealing pose. And then I'm looking for, so I do the pose to pose stuff. Pose to pose, I'm picking the pose to pose workflow. Then I'm setting the breakdowns, and about in betweening, I'm doing just frame by frame. So it's like, I'm closing my timeline, let's say for 20 or 30 frames, and I'm like, painting the wall, painting the wall, painting the wall. When I'm happy, I'm moving forward.
There you go. That's a great analogy. I like that.
Yeah. I took it from Jason Schleifer.
Okay, there you go. I've been wanting to get him on a podcast too before.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, I was supposed to get him and I can't remember his name right now on Peabody and Sherman, but it never panned out. So another time. Well, Seb, I really do appreciate your time. Like I said, I know your crunch time. It's almost 9 o'clock there. And
yeah, it's 9 o'clock, 10 past 9.
Okay.
But man, no worries. I'm very honored that I'm so glad that you had this podcast. Thank you, Larry, so much for
Absolutely.
having me.
And it's just great to get you back on the cameras. Like I said, it's been too long since we were in class together. So
yeah, man. I remember that time you had 4 kids.
Yeah. As I was telling Seb earlier, I got my 7th one on the way here later this year. So very blessed guy. Busy, but blessed.
Busy and blessed, yeah.
So yes, thank you very much for your time and best of luck to you. I'm sure we'll catch you back around here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Larry. See you.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.